Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video. Guys, Happy New Year to all of you out there. It has been a while since I've uploaded because, it was the holidays. I was spending time with my family. I had a great time, I'm sure, and I hope you guys had a great holiday as well. So what are we doing? We were due for a video, right? But we've been making a lot of tier list videos recently, NFL tier list as the season's gone on. We've ranked quarterbacks, wide receivers, running backs, coaches. So what's next on the agenda? Of course, tight ends. So as far as I think I'm planning on doing, as far as the agenda goes, after this, I'm planning on ranking every team's defense, and then I think that's going to be it for this season's NFL tier lists, because I don't really want to waste my time with kickers, and I don't think, I don't want to waste my life. I have a life, kind of, and I'm sure you guys, for the most part, have lives too. No one wants to rank kickers. No one wants to waste our time like that. So, no one wants to waste their time. So, as far as tight ends and ranking them specifically, I know that how a tight end blocks is very important, and that factors in a lot to their value. Obviously, it's not just about how great of a pass catcher a tight end is, but with that being said, I don't know specifically how every tight end is as a blocker. So when I rank these tight ends, I think the pass game involvement, their talent, their effectiveness in the pass game, I think is going to be the biggest factor here. Obviously, if they're noted for their run blocking, that might factor in too. And I think it will with some of these tight ends. But what I'm saying is, mainly, this is like a fantasy tight end type of thing. This is mainly how they are as a pass catcher. But I'm sure many of these tight ends, if not all of them, are somewhat effective with their blocking or very effective with their blocking. Some of them I do know about their blocking ability, so that will factor in. But with that being said, guys, make sure to comment your opinions. And let's get going with this tight end tier list. I actually made this myself. These are all every team gets one tight end to represent them. I felt like that was fair, because we don't want to go on and on with so many tight ends. And the way I picked a representative from each team was the leading tight end receiver for each team. That's who represents them. Obviously, some teams have multiple tight ends, like a 1A, 1B, 1C, but we're not going to do that. We're just going to do one tight end per team. We're going to start with Dallas Goddard. Dallas Goddard, super talented tight end. A tight end that I feel like people thought if Zach Ertz wasn't there, he would go off. And that's kind of what he's done. I think he's a really, really good A-tier tight end. Just a beast, especially recently. Big factor in the Eagles' passing game. Probably their best pass catcher alongside Devontae Smith. And a big reason they've clinched a playoff spot in 2021. So we move on to Hunter Henry, who has been a very valuable pickup for the Patriots. Kind of surprisingly, I didn't think that he would be Mac Jones's favorite target, especially in the end zone, but here he is scoring a ton of touchdowns. Is he at the Goddard level? I'm going to say no, but he's a really solid B-tier tight end. Then we move on to Tyler Higby, the Rams tight end. He kind of is in that Hunter Henry category. I feel like he's really solid and reliable. He's a good pass catcher, pretty good blocker. I think he goes down as a B tight end. Then we move on. I don't know why Travis Kelsey, his picture's so weird, it cuts off like right at the eyebrows. I don't know why it's like that. But with that being said, I love Travis Kelsey. And if you want to talk about pass catching, he is absolutely the best in the business. This guy, I think he's the best tight end in the league. You can argue Kittle maybe. You can maybe argue Mark Andrews, especially after the year he's had. But I still like my man Kelsey. Never gets hurt, knock on wood. Always reliable, always consistent. That man's a beast. Clear S tier and probably the best tight end in the league, at least according to me. Then we move on to one of the worst ones, Ian Thomas. I know the Panthers have Tommy Tremble as well. I think they both have like 2 catches, maybe like 18 catches or something. I don't know. Panthers don't use their tight. The Panthers haven't had a good tight end since Greg Olsen. The last few years has really been a struggle. Easy D tier. Ian Thomas, are you kidding me? Am I going to rank him higher than D tier with his pretty much zero pass game involvement? Yeah, I'm not. He's only a D tier and nothing else. Then we have Jack Doyle, a guy who's been the Colts tight end for a long, long time, since the Andrew Luck days, and he's been there for almost a decade. Him and Mo Alley Cox both are somewhat involved in the passing game, but the last couple years, he's kind of faded compared to years before that, so I don't even think he's B tier. I'm going to put him in the C tier. Then we move on to maybe the worst tight end in football, or maybe the worst tight end team in football. I feel like the Texans never have a good tight end, and Jordan Akins is no exception. They're barely involved in the passing game. Now, they a lot of times factor in the blocking game. Jordan Akins, as far as I know, he's a really good blocking tight end, but that's not the main way we're ranking this list. Obviously, this tier list is for the pass catchers for the most part, so we're going to put him in the D tier. Dan Arnold, the Jags tight end. They got him in a trade mid-season from the Panthers, and he was actually really solid when he played, but after he got injured and is out for the year, the Jags have like 90 tight ends. They have like O'Shaughnessy. They have Luke Farrell, the rookie. They have, Chris Manhurts. Whoever it is, they're probably D tier because right now Dan Arnold's not even healthy, not a big enough sample size. Jags are the worst team in football, even though they're my team. It's really painful to say that, but they suck. And so their tight ends suck too. So then we move on to Rob Gronkowski. Gronk, the beast. Is he past his prime? Slightly. But is he still an absolute beast when he plays? Yes. And they're really going to need him, the Bucs are, especially come playoff time with the Antonio Brown incident and Chris Godwin being out for the season. I think he's S tier. I still think Gronk's an S tier tight end. I mean, he's one of the best in the game. When he's healthy, still super productive, and is still a beast. He's got to be S tier, I think. Then we move on to Dalton Schultz. Now, if you haven't looked at Dalton Schultz's numbers and pass game involvement, did you think that he would be the second leading receiver for the Cowboys? I'm surprised to find that out. I was surprised to find that out. I think many of you would probably be surprised as well to find that out. Yeah, he's been really solid, really good tight end, A tier, easily. Then we move on to George Kittle. Again, like I said, if Travis Kelsey isn't the best tight end in football, then it's probably George Kittle. If you want to talk about all-around tight end, combination of just talent, athleticism, pass game involvement, pass game production, and blocking, Kittle might be the best tight end in the league. He's a way better blocker than Kelsey, and he catches passes with the best of them. So easy S tier is George Kittle. Then we move on to Tyler Conklin, the Vikings tight end. Now, he's actually had a surprisingly good year. I think he's their third leading receiver after, well, it might be KJ Osborne, after Adam Thielen, and of course Justin Jefferson, but he's actually been pretty involved as a pass catcher. He's caught a handful of touchdowns this year. Is he in the B tier? I'm going to say no. I'm going to put him in C tier, but he has been productive this year. He's been effective. Then we move on to Gerald Everett, kind of in that Tyler Conklin category after Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. I think he's their third leading receiver, and he's been solid, and I think that's how you would define the C tier, a solid tight end. So that's where I'm going to put Gerald Everett. Then we have Evan Ingram. I mean, I'm not a fan of Evan Ingram because he's so overrated. Oh my God. Like, he just drops passes all the time. He's been so disappointing, especially the last couple years. He's not in the D tier because he's really talented and they still kind of target him, but I think he's on his way out in New York. The Giants are just an absolute mess, but I'll put him in the C tier because, you know, he's not bad enough to be in D tier. TJ Hawkinson was an absolute beast and super hyped and talented coming out of college, and when he's been healthy, he's pretty much lived up to all the hype. So, but he got hurt, but he was Jared Goff's, I think, number one target, number one pass catcher in the Lions, whatever they call a passing attack. So I think it would be fair to, I'm going to put him in the, is he A tier? You know what? I think he is A tier. I think he's a beast. Like, he was a first round pick when he plays one of the better fantasy tight ends, has a case for top 5 tight end, or top 10. So let's just put him in the A tier. I think he's better than Hunter Henry and Tyler Higby. If you're the leading pass catcher on your team, no matter how bad your team is, I think you at least deserve to be, I mean, at least B tier, maybe A tier, so that's where we're going to put him. Then we move on to the Titans garbage passing or pass catching tight ends. This is Anthony Firkser, but if you want to put, I don't even know who, it's like they have Michael Pruitt, and then they have Jeff Swaim, whatever. They're all D tier as far as pass game involvement, but from what I hear, all of them can block really well and are effective in the Titans run and passing game, but for tight ends, again, pass catching, the way we're defining this list, for the most part, D tier. Then we have CJ Uzama for the Bengals, who's actually been a surprisingly decent tight end. Well, is he B tier or is he C tier? You know what? I think this year he's been surprisingly good. I'm going to put him in the B tier. Maybe that could move around, but I like him a lot, and I think he's been a really important part of their team. Blocks really well, catches passes reliable, likes the end zone. He absolutely went off against my Jags on Thursday Night Football, the night Urban Meyer decided to go party with some young ladies. So that's a memorable game that I won't forget from CJ Uzama. So because of that, maybe I'll just put him in B tier for that very reason. Jared Cook, who's been the definition of a solid tight end for most of his career, whether he's been on the Saints, whether he's been on the Raiders and Packers, and now on the Chargers. But this year, at least, Justin Herbert's had way I mean, he throws to Mike Williams and Keenan Allen and Austin Eckler. I just don't think he's been involved enough to be a B tier. He has had B tier years, I would say, but this year I would just keep him in the C tier. Then we move on to Darren Waller, who coming into this year was probably viewed as the second best fantasy tight end or pass catching tight end after Kelsey, but he's been injured this year, and Kittle has had this great bounce back year. Gronkowski's been a beast, and Mark Andrews has had the year he's had. So there's going to be recency bias with this tier list, with all these tier lists. So is it fair to drop him down to A tier? I think for now it is. He was easily an S tier coming into this year. I think he can regain it, but he just hasn't played recently, and people have kind of forgotten about him this year, but I think he'll earn it back. But right now, which is what this tier list is all about, all these tier lists have been at this moment in time. Is he an S tier? I'm going to say no, so let's just keep him in A tier. Still a great tight end, and I think he'll earn that S tier back. We have Pat Freiermuth, who's very surprising because I think the Steelers, every Steelers fan would probably assume that Eric Ebron was going to be their main tight end, but he's had injury problems all year like he's had for a lot of his career. Pat Freiermuth has stepped in and been a solid B-tier tight end, to be honest with you. I've seen his production. He gets targeted a lot. He's been consistent, reliable, really surprising. He's had a great year, I think, especially considering the fact that no one even knew who he was coming into this year, so the expectations have been great. Then we move on to Austin Hooper, who, maybe this should be David Njoku, because I think he's kind of emerged as the number one tight end for the Browns, but both of them, I think, are kind of like C-tier guys. The Browns' passing attack this year, especially after trading Odell, it's really been a problem. Baker Mayfield needs to have surgery ASAP, and the Browns need to fix that pass game because their protection's horrible. Their passing game has just been tough to watch recently, so I don't think you can put either of their tight ends or any of their tight ends above the C-tier ranking. Then you have Noah Fant, who has had a very nice year for the Broncos, considering they've had Teddy Bridgewater for most of the year, and especially recently had Drew Lock, and he's found a way to be productive. He's probably one of the better B-tier tight ends, but I don't think he's in the A-tier, but he's really good, though. I really like Noah Fant, especially since he hasn't had good quarterback play. Imagine if he has a really good quarterback, he's going to start going off and moving up tiers really quickly. Then we have Ryan Griffin, who is on the Jets, who always suck, usually, and they never have a good tight end, so by default, let's just put him in the D tier. I'm not going to say he's done nothing this year. He did a little something, but, Jets tight ends, they're usually nothing special. So let's just put him in the D tier. Mark Andrews. Mark Andrews has probably been the best pass-catching tight end this season, and he's just a beast. Easy S tier. I mean, he's, especially recently, the last few weeks, whether it was Lamar Jackson starting or Tyler Huntley at quarterback, he's just gone off and been an absolute beast, putting up insane numbers. He's going to finish as the fantasy tight end 1, I think, unless one of the other tight end, like Kelsey, absolutely goes off the last week. But right now, he's the fantasy tight end 1, so easily an S-tier tight end, in my opinion. And he also blocks really well and is their number 1 pass catcher, so there's really no debate about that one. Then we move on to Mike Gosicki, who, if you're just talking about talent and athleticism in the pass game, I mean, he's among the best of them. He's made some crazy catches in his career, and despite having Tua as his quarterback and Ryan Fitzpatrick, nothing close to a star quarterback, definitely, and still being able to put up really good numbers and be right around the leaders in receiving for the team the last couple of years, and combined with his talent, I think he's an A-tier tight end. I don't think he's S-tier, but maybe if he had really good quarterback play, the talent's there, he could easily be S-tier someday, so as he's still in the beginning of his career for the most part, so that's where I think he belongs. Then we have Ricky Seals-Jones, the Washington football team tight end. Now, this was supposed to be Logan Thomas, but Logan Thomas has been injured most of the year. Logan Thomas was like a B to B+, maybe A- tier tight end last year, but he's been hurt this year. So Ricky Seals-Jones leads them in receptions for tight ends. So he's here, but, most of you probably haven't even thought about him at all this year. So for that reason, we're going to put him in the D tier. I mean, he's maybe one of the better D tiers if that's a silver lining, but let's be fair. He's not higher than D tier. Then we have Zach Ertz, who's on the Cardinals now. That might be one of the best trades made this season in the NFL. Zach Ertz, who's filling in the void for Max Williams for the Cardinals, who got injured, had a season-ending injury, I think, in the first few weeks. Zach Ertz has come in and been the same productive tight end he's been for most of his career. He's a Super Bowl champion, and I think very worthy of an A-tier tight end. Maybe on the Eagles a few years back, he was an S tier, but I don't think he's there anymore. I don't think he's a workhorse tight end, but really, really good tight end. I would love to have him as my tight end. Then we have another surprising A tier in my opinion. I think Dawson Knox has had kind of a breakout year. Whether you look at receiving yards, receiving touchdowns, he's been a big factor in that pass game after Stephon Diggs. I'm pretty sure he's been their second leading receiver in terms of receptions, yards, touchdowns, all that. I mean, well, maybe Cole Beasley's up there, but he's been a big weapon for Josh Allen and a big reason why the Bills are once again good this year, really good. So we're gonna put him in A tier. I'm as surprised as you are. If you would have told me Dawson Knox, I mean, he was always solid, but he kind of broke out this year. So credit to him. He's definitely an A tier for the first time. And then we have maybe the team that uses their tight ends the least, alongside maybe the Texans. Adam Trotman. If I didn't tell you this was Adam Trotman and you didn't look at his jersey, could you really identify him by face? I don't think you could. I couldn't. So let's just, by that, de facto, D tier. Easy stuff. No question about it. Then we have the highest drafted tight end in NFL history, rookie Kyle Pitts for the Falcons, who was super hyped coming into this NFL season. And you know what? If I got to be honest, he's for the most part delivered on a not very good Falcons team. He's been their leading receiver. He's already over 1,000 yards. Yes, the touchdowns aren't there, but as a rookie to be on a not very good team and still have 1,000 yards despite, I mean, all the, not pressure, but he's had all this hype. He's lived up to it. He's got a lot of catches. He's been consistent all year and been very productive. The touchdowns aren't there, but I just know this. He has superstar written all over him. Might already be a superstar. Easy A tier, but I bet you a year or two from now, easy S tier. If either Matt Ryan starts playing a little better, or, which is not very likely, or they get a better quarterback in the future, Kyle Pitts has S tier written all over him. I mean, might be the most talented guy on this entire tier list. So yeah, easy A tier for now, and we'll move up, I guarantee it. Then we have Marcedes Lewis, the former Jag. This could have been Robert Tonyan, but he's out for the year with season-ending injury. So by that injury, Marcedes Lewis has taken over as the leading receiver in terms of Packers tight ends. Maybe Josiah DeGuara has something to say about that, but statistically speaking, Marcedes Lewis has been their leading receiver. But I'm sorry, he's old, he's washed, I got to put him in D tier. But, you know, Aaron Rodgers just makes the best out of any receiver, and he's still effective. D tier doesn't mean you're not effective. It just means, compared to the rest, you're the worst. So, sorry about that. Marcedes Lewis, some sentiments because he's a former Jag. Gotta love the former Jags. But anyways, guys, that's going to be it for this tier list. Another great, fun tier list video coming to an end. As always, guys, comment your opinions. Like the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe maybe if you're a football fan, if you're a sports fan, you know, baseball, basketball. We talk about all that stuff on this channel. And guys, it's just great to be back. I'm excited to be back pumping out content more consistently. I'll be making videos more often now that the holidays are over and we are in the new year, 2022, baby. First video of the year. So guys, thanks again so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.